On a crisp, dark evening, you look up into the night sky to see one light dancing. Soon that light turns into three, then four, then five lights. More come, you get hundreds filling the sky now. You hold your breath as you realize this is the moment that we figure out as a nation what those drones are, what they want, what they have in store for us. Are they aliens? Is it some sort of enemy intelligence? Is it something worse? Could it be our own government running experiments? You're about to find out. And then in a flash, every single thing you thought becomes mundane. Because this is not at all what you thought it could be. History will kneel and tomorrow it will cry because this is the start of a whole new world. For those of you who don't know, I'm Serial Overdrive. I typically do gaming videos. I talk about games and how to beat them and all sorts of stuff like that. It's why at some point you're probably going to see footage from a video game because that's typically what I do. However, I also dabble in conspiracy theories, and it has been a while. It's been a long, long while. I didn't think I'd be going back here, but I have to because there's something crazy going on. Nobody's talking about what the most likely reason is. I'm going to go over why I think this. I just saw it online and it blew my mind. It's one of those things like you read this and there's a chill that goes down your spine because it makes aliens, it makes it just makes every other theory seem mundane. So let's talk about this. First off, we know what these drones are, okay? We know they're probably not enemy intelligence because they have lights and markings and they comply with a lot of regulations that exist for US airspace. If you're some sort of enemy trying to spy on the United States of America, one, you're not going to do it with drones that light up, and two, you're definitely not going to follow FAA regulations because you're breaking those regulations simply by existing. Also, if you're some sort of Iranian spy, why would you be using millions of drones when you could just send a tourist with a camera? Most of these drones are not above top secret locations, so I think we can rule out Iranians, Russians, Ukrainians, or whatever you want to call it. Next up, we got a lot of people saying that this is some sort of alien. And again, well, let's talk aliens, right? Like, why would aliens comply with the Federal Aviation Administration? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, maybe they picked up the radios and they want to let us know they're friendly, but they don't want to let us, like, they just want to keep it on the down low. So they just put a bunch of lights on their spacecrafts and decide to make a go of it. But I really don't think extraterrestrials have decided to use the same colors that we do just to make sure we know they're friendly. They could just come on TV and say, hey guys, we're friendly. Especially if they took all that time to read FAA rule book. So I think we can rule out aliens and enemies because they're following the rules too well. However, they're not quite following all the rules because you got possibly, I think, 500 to 1,000 unidentified drone sightings, and that is crazy. That's more than one person. That's more than any sort of agency. It's not the sort of thing that's going to be happening if it's some sort of civilian operation or some sort of small scale operation or just one person messing around. This is too big for that. These drones are said to hover for an extended period of time that a lot of or all commercial crafts can't do, commercial drones can't do. So if you were to go on Alibaba and buy yourself a drone, it would crash. If you go to a legitimate store and buy yourself a drone, it'll last for a while. It can do some cool stuff. You can get some really good video footage, but what it can't do is what these drones are doing. Making these crazy maneuvers, hovering for 6 hours at a time, then going way out to sea and disappearing. When I say disappearing, I mean they're just being lost from sight. People can't track them anymore. Radar can't track them anymore. They're just disappearing from our sort of view of aviation space. Okay. They're not disappearing drones. These things aren't teleporting anywhere, going invisible. They're just disappearing off radar because they're going so far out. And again, this just shows the level of technology that's at use here. These things are pretty advanced, more advanced than what you can buy if you go down to Best Buy. So, probably these drones are experimental, which means they're probably military. Unless Boeing's decided to do another fuck up and they're just running wild with something. But I don't think that's the case. Let's assume that's not the case. Let's hope for Boeing's sake. But that is not the case. They haven't lost control of the robot AI drones because that would be bad. So, assuming the robot AI drones aren't a thing, it's the government. The government's operating these drones, but the government swears they don't know anything about these drones. They had some dude go on the Joe Rogan podcast and double down and say he talked to his government sources who would definitely be looking for And this is where it gets interesting, radioactive material, and they said they're not looking for anything radioactive, but they don't know what the drones are. So we've got some oddities here, right? These drones are following FAA procedures. They're not commercial because of what they can do. They're probably not an enemy military because they're following Federal Aviation Administration procedures. So what are they? Most likely, again, it comes back to the US military owning these drones. They are legitimate drones being used for a purpose that they don't want the population to know of. This is the thing that makes sense. This is the only thing that makes sense in my opinion. There's just to me, in my opinion, there's nothing else it could be. There's no other scenarios that I could see. Aliens just aren't going to follow the same regulations. Same with enemies. The military, they would be following those regulations, and these drones might be legitimate drones that they operate legitimately a lot of the time. But if there was some sort of emergency, some sort of thing that they needed all hands on deck, maybe they just fly those babies and let it go and just try to push past it, try to gaslight people into believing that it's not them, right? This is, this happens, right? Like, it's an all hands on deck scenario, and in those scenarios, you go with every damn thing that you have, because something is so important that it doesn't really matter if you cause a little bit of a stir in the news media, and this is where it gets scary, folks. This is where I get a little scared, because if I'm right about this has to be something big, right? Like, they're not taking the time to black out these drones. They're not taking the time to explain what it is. They're not claiming it's an exercise. They're just saying they don't know what it is. And that's scary because, A, if they really don't know what it is, what is it? What's going on here? Why do we have these drones that are seemingly following aviation procedure, but also just running around in places they shouldn't be, doing things they shouldn't be able to do, and going nuts, right? And if it is the military, what are they looking for? And this is where the conspiracy theories come out, right? So the one that I read is, and this is what they basically came on Joe Rogan to say it wasn't nuclear material. There's a dirty bomb. There's a nuclear missile. There's some sort of nuclear thing that's gone wrong, that's gone missing. And these drones are being used as scanners to try and pick up on where this thing might have gone. And look, if that is the case, there's a very real probability that they wouldn't want people like you and me to know it because A, it would cause a lot of panic, and B, whoever's got these things, whoever's got this nuclear material, they'd be shielding it a little bit better. It'd be a little bit harder for the drones to pick up, so it's better if they don't think that these drones are looking for them. The drones also don't have to be necessarily looking for something nuclear, just something that drones would be able to scan for and something that is so scary that the population shouldn't know that the drones are looking for it. So yeah, we're not looking for lost babies here, we're looking for something scary. And this is why it's so scary because it means that there's something running amok on the East Coast. And it's so bad that the military or whoever's in charge of this operation isn't letting us know what it is. The other option is that there is something crazy going on because there's these drones that exist. They're following some Federal Aviation Administration procedures and ignoring others. They're flying in areas they shouldn't fly, but they're using light signals that they should be using. The military has no idea what entity is doing this, and whatever entity is doing this has a carrier or some sort of base somewhere near the US that they're flying these drones out of, and we can't pinpoint where that base is. Now, using my deductive reasoning, as much as I've tried to assault it with all sorts of chemicals, I don't think that's possible. I can't see an enemy having a drone base located close to the US, but, like, following FAA procedures, but not really following them, causing a huge ruckus, then sort of not because they're not doing anything too crazy, and spying on regular civilian areas, but not because they're also spying on military bases. The scattering of the drones just doesn't make sense from an enemy intelligence perspective. Why would you blow your top secret drone base trying to spy on Brian's backyard? Especially when you could just send some dude with a camera to take a picture. And the camera would probably cost a lot less because let's face it, top secret drone programs probably aren't. So it just the only thing that I can see that makes sense here is some sort of US military operation that they don't want the public to know about. And the reason I say they don't want the public to know about it is because Every single government agency that's made a statement on this has said, "We don't know what's going on, but you don't need to worry." Which means I feel like we should worry, and I feel like they do have some idea what's going on, because if they really didn't know, they probably wouldn't say anything at all. If they're trying to cover up, I feel like they would. I feel like they'd try and give us, like, some breadcrumbs and say, "Hey, we don't really know what these are, but we don't think it's anything bad." They're just trying to, like, pull the hat down over our eyes and bukkake all over. And I just I don't know. It's it's a bit scary, folks. It's a bit scary. And that's why I wanted to make this video. I wanna see what other people think. Maybe someone can talk me down from this, but to me, it seems like there might be some sort of nuclear mishap going on. It could be as simple as some sort of leak, some sort of radiation exposure, some sort of chemical exposure incident that they're trying to figure out what's going on with, and it could be as scary as a bad actor with bad things inside US borders. Hopefully, I'm wrong, though. Hopefully, it's aliens. Until next time, peace.